welcome everybody. It's great to see so many of you here tonight. I think we're some familiar faces, but my name is Nikki Lefebvre and I'm the director of the Natick Historical Society. We were established in 1870 and today we remain an independent nonprofit that receives no public funds. We thrive on the support of our community members, and so I really want to extend a thanks to all of our supporters who make programs like this one possible. Thank you so much for your support. Tonight, we are really thrilled to have Deb Sayre with us this evening to talk about the Natick Farmers Market. And this program is part of a series that we do called Meet Our Neighbors. And the goal of the series is really to just shine a light on local organizations that have shaped Natick in the past, in the present, and will continue to do so into the future. I'll note that this is the first event in our spring series. The next event in the Meet Our Neighbors series is coming up on April 27th, and we'll hear from the Metro West Director, Scott McHugh, and Community Advocacy and Engagement Manager, Alyssa Landry of the Broadmoor Wildlife Sanctuary. That event will be held on Zoom. You can check it out and register on our website so that you can be sure to get the link and tune in and learn all about Broadmoor. I also want to highlight a couple of other upcoming events, including our walking tours of South Natick Center and Walnut Hill. The dates are out. There are several of them. They're up on our website, and they're filling up pretty quickly as they usually do. So take a look for those. I'll also note that on Saturday, April 30th, the Natick Historical Society will be participating in Eco Natick. There will be lots of events around the community. You can Google it and find out. More and more events are being added every day, I think. But we'll be out at 58 Elliott Street along with the Bacon Free Library and some other local organizations. So you can meet with us in person to talk about Natick's past. And that's a really exciting thing. Looking far ahead into May, I do want to mention that we'll be speaking on May 10th with Stephen Evers, who is the longtime chair of Natick's Historical Commission, and he'll be talking about preserving elements of Natick's past. That will also be on Zoom, and we're looking forward to hearing from him. Again, our website is natickhistoricalsociety.org. We're delighted to have Deb Sayre with us tonight. A familiar face to so many of us here in Natick. It won't surprise most of you that Deb has spent much of her career working with people, and I would say more specifically helping people. She did her undergraduate degree and graduate work in education at Northeastern University. She has taught and worked with children and adults of seemingly all ages in a wide variety of settings. I won't even begin to try to summarize, but I will say they range from schools and treatment centers to group homes and prisons and community centers. It's astounding. It's really wonderful. And if that weren't enough, Deb also makes jewelry and she teaches dance, something I learned new. She also serves on a number of boards and committees, including Natick Pegasus, the Natick Days Committee, and the Committee for the 4th of July in Natick. As many of you know, Deb also founded and directs Kids Connect Inc. in Natick, and our reason for chatting with her tonight is that she founded and manages the Natick Farmers Market, which is a program of the Natick Center Associates. So Deb, I'm exhausted thinking about the array of activities that you do and have done. And we're delighted to have you with us here tonight. Deb's gonna talk for a little bit, and then we'll ask some questions, and everyone should feel welcome and invited to add your own questions to the mix. So Deb, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. The first thing I have to say is I haven't taught dance in many decades.
But you did.
But thank you. It brought back some nice memories.
Good, good.
Yes. So what I thought I would do is give you a little bit of the background as I remember it. And I have to tell you that that's always an iffy situation. But about 25 years ago, some of you may remember when Joyce Moss was the downtown coordinator, probably the the first person to focus on developing Natick Center for Natick Center Associates. And we were walking one day in Natick Center, and she said, you know, I heard there are these things out in California called farmers markets. What do you think? I was like, why not? So we talked about it. Neither one of us knew anything about how to do it or what should happen, but that didn't stop us. So we called the Mass Federation of Farmers Markets, got a little information, got the name of a few farms, and asked them if they would like to be part of a farmers market we were designing. I am very proud to state that Tangerini Farms in Millis was our first and has been with us the full 25 years, which kind of tells you how nice the community is to people who come in to serve. We didn't know where to set up, so my father, who was alive at the time, who owned Deb Sayre Wallpaper, said, well, use the sidewalk in front of the store, it's wide. So we had a farm, and then we had another farm, and then we had a bread vendor. And when we got up to 6, we decided it was time to move. And we got permission to move to the common. I have to tell you that for the next 10 years, Dick Cugini and I had an ongoing tug of war between staying on the common. He kept trying to move me over to the town hall parking lot. And I kept saying, no, a market needs to be on grass. So as you all know, I won that one. So what happened was, in a sense, not knowing what we were doing, we invited people to join us if they had good food, reasonable prices, and liked dealing with people. And those are sort of the foundations for the market. If you've ever been to the market, I think that you'll agree that we have very friendly and helpful vendors, and the atmosphere of the market is very personable. And that's, I think, one of the bedrock foundational elements to our market is that people enjoy coming. They enjoy chatting with people. They run into old friends, they make new friends, and it's as much a community event as it is a food event or a selling event. Over the years, I would run into people who were just starting a business, who didn't know how to put what they had made out. And so they were invited to join the market. Everyone who is at the market that has any food goes through the Board of Health. They are my firewall. They are the group of people that say, this is safe, you know what you're doing, the public is safe dealing with you. And the partnership between the town, the Board of Health, and the market has been extraordinary from day one. And I really appreciate that. So what happened over time is that somebody heard about somebody who made something and could they be at the market? So I began expanding. I can't tell you the number of times when I've said, okay, we have enough, we don't need to grow anymore. And if you come to the new market, when we move on to the common on May 7th, you'll see that once again, that didn't work, because I'm now up to juggling 65 food vendors, not all of whom will be there every week, but think about the variety that this market is going to be offering beyond what we already do. Then one day, I heard my cousin playing guitar at an open studio in a nearby town and said, why don't you come play at the farmer's market? I'm not going to pay you, but I can get you bagels and maybe some veggies. So he came, he played, his friends came to hear him and said, can we play? And then I had the beginning of a list of musicians that's now about 35 long. And we're at the point where they're complaining because they're only getting 1 or 2 dates a summer to play because they enjoy providing their talent to the market. Then a couple of years went by, and as I got involved in the open studio and all of the wonderful artists and crafters that we have in town, it was like, well, you know, I know that you're making this and it costs you money, and wouldn't you like to come and try to sell to people? So we began adding crafters. My list at the current time is 349 crafters, not all of whom schedule at the market. Some now schedule at Natick nights. But I do a big blast, and the ones that are interested respond to me, and then I schedule them throughout the season. It used to be once a month for everybody. There's now too many, so they may get 3 or 4 dates a season. So we kind of grew by adding more variety, more reasons to attend, more opportunities for small businesses and creative people to be able to offer their goods and services. So in my mind, the farmers market is a community event. It's an incubator for new businesses, and I can proudly say over the years, there have been vendors who have come to the market and who have outgrown us. As a matter of fact, if any of you have ever bought the little chicken bites that started last summer at the market, they're now in Amazon and in the major outlets, but he's coming back to the market because he lives in Natick and he loves the market. So it's nice when they outgrow us, but don't leave us. I have been blessed. I see Sarah was here. I have been blessed with always having people in the community who offered to help. Some have been sucked in for more regular obligations, but what was neat was the atmosphere of the market was such that if I needed to leave the table to do something, I could snag somebody. And often it was a customer who stepped up and said, "Oh, do you want me to cover the table while you do something?" There was that kind of informal cooperation and support of the market. Many of you know that I had asked Rich Whalen many years ago to cover the table for me, and he just never left. And for years, he was my main support, and he brought the tents and the tables, and it was a wonderful partnership. And then he decided that he'd had enough of that, and COVID made things a little uncomfortable. So now I have Sarah at the winter market. I have Charlie Hughes, who works the market with me. I have several other women who say, "Call me when you need me." And it's very difficult for me to express the joy that I feel with those kinds of networks and partnerships and support and generosity. I think that Natick as a community is extraordinary in the way people help each other and step up. And I'm very grateful that I grew up enough to know coming back to my hometown was a good move, because I left town the day I graduated college because I had to get away from everybody knew my folks. Couldn't do anything without somebody squealing to somebody. And then I outgrew that and came back and appreciated that kind of caring. So what I'd like is to take some questions about the market, not necessarily food requests, but anything that you would like to know about the inner workings of the market, anything that you think should be addressed that we're not doing right. I'm open.
And so, Deb, I'll jump in here and remind people that you can raise your hand and unmute and ask your question live to Deb, or you can send a question to me through the chat. Jay, go ahead and unmute.
I do. Are food vendors vetted by the health department?
Oh yeah, nobody gets to be at the market selling food without being permitted by the Board of Health. Safety is always the first concern. Where do you go?
Thank you.
Okay. And I might mention that we have 2 new people at the health department. who are involved in, all the applications are now going in for the next season that opens May 7th on the Common. And they're vetting all of those applications now. And they're a pleasure to work with. They have any questions, we work together to resolve them. And I have to tell you that I must say no weekly to 6 to 8 vendors who have heard about our market and want to join, which is a nice testament. And most of the food vendors come and stay because it's a successful market business-wise if your product is good. And I've had people, when I've said, how did you do, say to me, oh, I have such a good time here. If I don't do any business, it's still okay, which is a nice testament to the atmosphere of the whole market. Excuse me.
Carol, why don't you go ahead and unmute? I see you have a question too.
For a while, I think there was a knife sharpening service.
He's still there.
Is he? How often does he come?
He's there probably 75 to 80% of the time. He will occasionally be at another market, maybe once a month. If you go to natickfarmersmarket.org, every week, another volunteer posts a list of who's at the market. And
Oh, that's great.
And if it says Eric, the knife sharpener, that he'll be there. And in the summer when we're outside, I think it's once a month he's not there, either because of work or another market, but he's there on a fairly regular basis. And he'll be, when we move out to the Common, he's downstairs now, because I'm hoping you all know that we are a year-round market. So you can get great food all the time at the Common Street Spiritual Center. He's usually downstairs when he's there. When we go out to the Common, he's near the corner, the post office corner of the Common. He's in that area.
Great, thank you. It's a wonderful service.
And he'll do lawnmower blades. He'll do a whole variety of things.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Deb, I'm curious too, in thinking back to the beginning of the farmers market, what was the, I loved how you described it as kind of, there are these things happening out in California. Maybe we could bring one of these things here, right? Which is to remind us that farmers markets, which now many communities have embraced, was, our fairly recent phenomenon here in New England. And so what was the public reception like at the time? Were people sort of like, what is this? This is wonderful. Do you remember what the response was from the community?
Obviously, it was good enough that the people who started with us stayed with us. As a matter of fact, we had Tangerini, then Freitas, then Keown, which was later bought by Fopema, and they continued. So our 3 main farms have been with us for 25 years.
Wow.
I think it was a novelty, and then it was the product. It helped at the beginning that we had an awesome bread vendor who then moved up to the woods in Vermont, so we lost him, but there was enough variety for people to try and think that this was a nice novelty that sort of grew to be a much more functional novelty.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because we were not the first, but we were early.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to other vendors trying to deal with other towns, and the boards of health didn't know what to do with this new phenomenon. And Jim White, God bless him, basically, we had a conversation when I started adding value-added products, which means maybe sauce or spaghetti, something other than fruits and vegetables. He was saying, well, is it still a farmer's market? And I'm saying, yes, but you need variety. People don't just eat. And he listened and he said, okay, as long as everything is safe. And I said, that's your area. He was always open and supportive. And I listened to what some of the other boards of health departments were doing, the barriers they were creating, because they did not know what to do. They didn't know what the boundaries were, the expectations were, what safety factors to look at. And once again, we were blessed in Natick to have very open, caring, responsible people. And if I had a question about a vendor, is this safe? Does this make sense or anything? I could turn to the Board of Health, or actually Laura Tangerini, who was the original owner of Tangerini Farms, who was an exceedingly bright and good businesswoman. I would call her. And when I didn't know that a farmer or a vendor was doing something, should I be upset? Is that right? How does that work? I would call her. And she would say, well, do you want a price war, or do you want to just gently let the other farmers know that we're all offering? And so I would do that. And the competition and the price issues that some other markets had, we didn't have in Natick, because the atmosphere from the beginning was, you're offering a service to the community. This is not cutthroat. This is not, everybody can win. So it was really very cool.
Well, Deb, another question that I had for you is that it's so interesting that you grew up here and you grew up in a community that didn't have a farmer's market, and you created it, and now you live in a community that has one. And I wonder if you can talk about maybe how the farmer's market, its presence, has influenced the community. What does that change mean to you? What do you think it means to the community?
Well, the first thing that goes through my mind is there's still a lot of people in Natick who don't even know we have a farmer's market, which amazes me. And don't forget, when it was started, we didn't have social media. So it was all one person telling another, or if I put something in the paper or I put something on Pegasus, somebody might trip over it. And there were people who over the years said, I'm never going to Natick Center on a Saturday because of the traffic, because of the market. Well, it's like, come to the market and enjoy it. If you're in a town without a market, for many years you didn't miss it because you didn't know about it.
Right.
Then a couple of us started markets. Newton has two. And I think they were before us, and their town government started it as opposed to private groups. So in every town, there's a different base. Sometimes it's a farm that says, I have extra space. Sometimes it's a volunteer group. Sometimes it's a nonprofit organization. So the only uniformity would be the safety guidelines. Yeah. Like in our market, it's basically a grow it or make it. So you can't go to Haymarket Square and buy bananas to sell at the market. You can sell what you grow. If you're a crafter, you can sell what you make, because I don't want to have to deal with Tupperware and Lululemon and those products. So I defined it as grow it or make it. And I would say that the boundaries are a little more flexible than they were at the beginning, but that's still basically the guidelines. What then happened was every town thought they had to have one. And so you had them popping up and you had them disappearing, and had them popping up, and it was like, well, if the neighboring town has one, we have to have one. Instead of, if you have a farmer's market within a reasonable area, you don't need more. You want to have enough successful ones so that people get the product, but you don't want a market with 5 over here and 6 over there and 18 over there, and everybody's competing, and some of the same vendors are going here on Saturday and there on Thursday, and that's not really a winning formula. So some of our neighboring towns have tried unsuccessfully on a couple of occasions, but we meet their needs. I've had people come from Groton to our market,
Wow,
which is really nice.
that's
Rich
wonderful.
used to talk to everybody, and he would tell me, half our people are from outside of Natick, and do you know where they come from? And he would gather all of that information, which was very neat.
Very important to have someone like Rich at the welcome center of the market, making people feel like they're part of something and they're welcome
Yes.
to be there.
And Rich himself taught many of the people who come to the market, and they're now bringing their kids. And that whole continuity that runs through Natick, that connection of, I remember you, I worked with you, your father knew my father, that kind of thing is part of the fabric, I think, of the community.
Yeah, that's a big part of what makes it such an important community event. So I have a couple of questions coming in here. Speaking of community, this question about what is the connection with the cultural district or maybe the Natick Center Associates? How are they related?
All right, Joyce worked for the Natick Center Associates.
And Joyce, remind us, is one of the early.
Joyce Moss was the downtown manager.
Okay.
Who was hired to develop program and sort of help with the planning of the direction for Natick Center.
Great.
And so from the beginning, this was sponsored by Natick Center Associates. I am delighted to say that while it is sponsored by them, the relationship has always been cooperative, meaning I go to them when I have a question or a problem and they stay away from what I'm doing, which is the way I like to operate. Don't like a lot of other people's fingers in my pies. And as long as it's successful, then that cooperative relationship, I expect to continue. So Athena and I talk all the time. We're now at the point where some of the resources from the market get integrated into some of the other events. So I might be scheduling the music for our Natick Center Associates event because I've got the list of, so we do a lot of cooperative things like that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of sort of collaboration across community events that are, all these events are benefiting each other and working together.
Right.
That's wonderful. So I have another question here. Wondering whether you found that the food offerings have become more diverse over the years, how that has changed.
Well, we now have Chilean food, West African food, Mediterranean food, Mexican food. We had French food, but he got a job in a French restaurant and we lost him. I think if you wander the market, you'll see nice diversity, both in the vendors, and we have a lot of women-owned businesses, which I'm very pleased with. And we have different cultures and different foods, which I think is extraordinary. As a matter of fact, Dates and Olives, which is in downtown Natick,
right?
Many years ago, Renita started out as a vendor at the market, and she would come with her food. And then she got a kitchen to do her cooking in Brighton, and that turned into a restaurant, and then it turned into the restaurant in Natick. But she started at our market in that. She had been a chef and done catering and events, but in terms of offering to the public, at our market.
That's really wonderful. It sounds like it speaks to your how you talk about the community nature of the farmers market. It sounds like there's probably also a lot of business exchange of knowledge about building businesses and networking, and that these might be learning opportunities as well for businesses just starting out.
And I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. But I have people come who are just starting a business, and I give them what they need to do legally with the Board of Health. I talk to them about some marketing because I sold on the road for 20 years. So I'll have new vendors come with these beautiful tablecloths, and then they put their product on it, and I go over and I say, are you selling the tablecloth? Because I can't see the product. And they have to learn about marketing and presentation. And so we offer that. And often I've sent new or potential vendors to existing vendors, sometimes even for a similar product, and said, would you help them? And they do. And so again, getting back to the no competition.
Yeah.
If I have somebody who has an overlapping product, I always ask the one who's in the market if it's okay, because they are to be protected. But the generosity of these people in supporting somebody new is just, I'm very proud of it.
That's
Very
wonderful.
proud.
That's so lovely to hear. I think, Carol, you have a hand up there. Do you want to go ahead and unmute?
I know you've had Southeast Asian products.
Andy, yes.
Forgot to mention that.
Actually, I just found out because I had contacted Andy Tao from Mentor Flats Farms of the world. There's an organization that has a lot of immigrant farmers, and they work with them in the space and the selling and the growing. And for several years, Andy would come in about mid-June to sell his vegetables. He has retired, but Fabiola, who is another farm with that group, will be bringing those vegetables in. I just got the word this week.
That's
So,
good.
yeah.
So
that'll be listed. Fabiola is her business name. And as soon as I get her start date, it will be up on the website.
That's great. Thanks for bringing that up, Carol.
Yes.
Yeah. I have another question here about the winter market, and how does the relationship work with the spiritual center? Is that is it a space that you rent? Is
Yes.
there a collaborative
Yes.
relationship there? How does that work?
Actually, it works very well. We have rented the space. If you've been to the market, you know we use the main floor, then we use the lower floor, and we now have the farms, the fish, and the meat in the back parking lot, because many of them work out of their truck, and they seem to like the cold, so it's fine by me. They will be moving over to Park Street when we move to the Common. So if you're looking for farms, fish, and meat, it'll be along Park Street. You'll see all the trucks. But we've been there for several years, and it's been a delight.
So is the winter market relatively new then? Or was it in another location before?
Well, when I started the winter market, we started at the Johnson School in their gym, and it was January to March.
Okay.
And I can't honestly tell you, although my honey guy says we've been at Spiritual Center for about 10 years. I'm not sure. Scott, does that sound right? Scott Davis? I don't know how long, but we've been there for several years.
Okay.
We went from Johnson. The hospital approached us because they had a big meeting room, which was a wonderful space, except people didn't want to go to the hospital to buy their vegetables. So we were there for 1 year, and the Spiritual Center, when we started the market, was not in existence. And then when Ian took over and was developing all of the community resources and opportunities for people to meet and have activities, we went to him, and we've been there, and that's been stable. It's been, it's very convenient because we can say to people, we're moving across the street, although they don't listen, but they listen when we say we're moving back across the street to the Common. It gives us space for about 30 vendors inside. So many of the summer vendors might come every other week or once a month in the winter because the traffic and the volume is less, so they adjust accordingly. but it's worked out very well.
Good, good. And is that common that farmers markets have winter stations?
It's becoming, well, a lot depends on location.
Right.
Like there's some markets that started out here and then they went there, and if they find the right location, because Natick has such a wonderful common, it's a natural for the market to be there. Some towns don't, so they might be in a church parking lot or a regular parking lot. It's a matter of finding space that people can get to or recognize. Like the Needham Market started on the side of a church and then they moved somewhere else, and now finally they're in front of the town hall where they should be, because that's a space that can be seen and people can approach. So the development of the markets depend on their staffing, their location. Not every town or market has an indoor location. Some towns might have a winter market as a special event once or twice during the winter. If they have like an armory or a community space, then they might do a full winter, but there are so many factors in terms of whether it will work or not.
Yeah.
We have been very lucky.
And do you collaborate with the other, I mean, I'm thinking of historical societies, there are lots of little historical societies, and we kind of get together for lunch at times and we talk about the challenges that we all face together, right? And share strategies. I wonder if communities with farmers markets have been able to connect in those ways.
There is an organization, and there's a farmers market managers group. I have gotten over the years phone calls from people who want to start a market, who don't know how to go about it. And I love teaching. So I love being able to explain to them that it isn't the functional aspect you need to learn, it's the relationship aspect, because this is a partnership. The market is for a group of people to offer services to the community. It is not about my creating an organization I can run. I'm a facilitator. And if you go into, and there was a local town that was going to do a market, and the first thing they did was to build the market manager's chair. It was like a lifeguard thing. And I went, this is not going to work, because that attitude was about, we're going to run it. And it didn't work. So I love when a market calls me and says, how did you handle this? Or how do you do this? Or what do you look for? What are your boundaries? Several years ago, I was invited to be on a panel at the farmers market. They had a trade show, a 2-day trade show, and I was invited to be on a panel. And the other two people on the panel were really sweet young girls who sent me their policies. They said, let's all exchange policies. And I went, oh, damn, I have to write policies. So on one piece of paper, double spaced, I wrote, they all have to have permits from the Board of Health. We don't do price wars. We have to be considerate. Basically, the bottom line was, I'm the boss. And I couldn't come up with 4 or 5 pages in a 6-point font with rules and regulations and boundaries, because our market has the advantage. My advantage is that I built it, so I built it the way I wanted it to be, which is all relational. So I don't run into the kinds of problems that some of the other markets run into, where a vendor may say, if you bring in so-and-so, I'm leaving. I mean, I listen to some of the issues that they have that I don't have, because I'm the only one who designed it and knows all the people. I didn't come in to an existing thing that I then had to adapt to.
Right.
So, but whenever I can talk to a market or refer a vendor to a market, that might help them on either end, then I love to do that.
Well, that's wonderful. It's a testament to your approach grounded in relationship building that in fact it is such a welcoming and community building place and an event.
Well, and I'll do a little sidebar. When I started Kids Connect, it was, which was around the same time. It also is relational in the sense that I hire tutors. Diane Young, my assistant director, and I interview and hire tutors based on their emotional, I don't want to say skill set or just their emotional makeup, but we don't just hire skill. We hire people who have a certain emotional set that enjoys relating to the kids, enjoys the creativity of responding to that child's need, and they have the skill. And so the relationship between the tutors and the students is also nourishing. It isn't just, so, you know, I've been very, I love being the boss. I just love being the boss.
It's more than a transaction is what I'm hearing, right?
It's more than a transaction.
And Janice, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead and unmute. Oh, Janice, I think we're having a difficult time hearing you. I'm so sorry. Here, try one more time to speak. Yeah, we can't hear you, but Janice, if you see the chat bubble in the bottom of your screen, go ahead and type your question and send it our way. Thank you. Deb, I do have another question here about whether the farmers market offers benefits to low-income shoppers. Do you have any relationship with SNAP or other
the farms take HIP and SNAP.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah. Now I will tell you that depending on who established the market and who they're affiliated with, there are some markets that match SNAP, give people tokens or certificates to match and double. We don't do that.
Okay.
And some markets run all of their HIP and SNAP through the market management. I don't do that because I don't want to do all of that unnecessary paperwork. There are some markets where people buy tokens and then they spend the tokens and then the tokens get turned in and converted to cash, which gives the market management a good idea of numbers. But again, I chose not to do that.
Okay.
I asked the vendors, how did you do? And they're forever on a slow day trying to make me feel better that they didn't do as much business as I would have liked them to do. And they say, oh, you have ups and downs, it'll be fine. The summer will make up for it. And they do what they can to make me feel better about it.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really lovely. I have another question coming in here about the effects of the pandemic on the farmers market. If you could say a little bit about that.
We did not stop with the pandemic. If any of you were at the summer market, you saw signs that said, please stay 6 feet away. Everybody wears a mask.
Mm-hmm.
We took as many precautions as we could. At the winter market, I did not schedule as many vendors, so it wasn't quite as crowded, and everybody wore a mask. We're now blaming the building and asking people to continue wearing a mask inside. Just better safe than sorry. We open the windows, the front door is always open, but we've tried to be conscientious and still available.
That's wonderful.
And only 2 couples walked out when we asked them to put a mask on, which is not bad.
That I'll say so. So I have a message here from Janice, who was a first-time vendor last year, attended the market a number of times and was very impressed by your leadership. Management is most effective when it comes from the top down, and she never saw any snafus.
Thank you.
And would also like to add that as the author of a children's book that she was selling, she got some feedback, especially about her marketing from current and potential customers. So thank you very much. And Janice, thanks for sending that note in. That's a really lovely compliment to the program.
Well, and I have to say two factors. One, Janice is part of the art community. And so sometimes I sort of let them come a little more often, and she has a very small table. So it was easy for me to let her come more often because she took up such little space.
Well done, Janice. And thank you for sharing a bit of your story there.
And also, I want to mention Sarah Snyder has been a rock for me through the winter market. She comes every week to help me. She's like I mentioned earlier, the foundational volunteers. I mean, I couldn't run the market without the volunteers. And when I had all the pain and the recovery of the surgery, my volunteers just were incredible. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate what they did. Thank you, Sarah.
That's wonderful. And Sarah, if you're here, you're welcome to unmute and make a comment if you like. And to give you a minute to think about that, one of my final question is, you've talked so much about your volunteers and how wonderful are they. Are there volunteer opportunities at the farmers market, for the summer, for the winter, or how does that work?
The winter, between Sarah and Charlie and myself, unless one or the other can't make it, and then a volunteer comes in to help me, there's not that much opportunity. In the summer, there might be some volunteer. I mean, I can schedule some people to come in for a couple hours at a time so that I'm not tied at the table. Because while I'm running the market, and I'm going to be there anyway, we have a table where I sell coffee, juice, and water for Kids Connect, because multitasking and helping two groups is more efficient. And so, and I see now that I can walk without pain, I can see me going out into the market, talking to customers and vendors, which means I would need some help to man the table. So if anybody wants to volunteer for a couple hours once in a while, I'd be delighted. It's
good to know.
Mental health wise, volunteering at the market is very effective and less expensive.
That's great. That's great. And you get to be part of a community to boot, right?
And you meet, I have watched over and over again, you meet somebody you haven't seen in 20 years. Or somebody who knew somebody, who remembered the connections that happen. They're just delightful.
Wonderful. Well, I think I'll ask one final question, which is that what is your hope for the future of the farmers market in Natick?
That I know when I should retire, and that I have somebody that I trust to continue with it. Now that both knees are done, I don't see retirement as being as close as it was when I was in pain. And I enjoy it so much. I enjoy the scheduling. I enjoy the working out who's coming when that won't compete with who. I enjoy, in the middle of the winter, I didn't necessarily enjoy being down there at 7:30 in the dark. But once I got there, it was very good for me. And any transaction we have that is good for both parties, I think is a win-win. And so if there's somebody who thinks they would like to take over the market in the future, I can start doing some very slow training because I'm not leaving so fast. But I'm hoping that I have finally said enough that we won't get any bigger. I will mention that on opening day, it's also Art on the Common Day, so there'll be at least a dozen artists there in addition to the crafters and the music. We're planning a fiber day.
Oh, we are?
We are, yes. My lamb vendor has the name of some fiber vendors, and we have to just pick a date and then announce it. The other thing that I thoroughly enjoy is when I get an email from either a parent or a child that says, oh, I make this thing, can we come to the market and sell it, or we want to raise money? Those young entrepreneurs, I just absolutely adore. So whenever I get that kind of an email, they're included in the market because they learn customer service, they learn marketing, they learn money, it's just
Wonderful experience all
Yes.
around at that age.
yes.
Well, Deb, I'm getting some compliments coming into the chat and some warm thanks for you taking the time to talk to us this evening. Oh, go.
Would you, David, would you please, so I can see your gorgeous face? My son is, where is he? There he is. There's my boy. I finally stopped calling him my baby.
Hi, David. Thanks for joining us. And David's joining us from
Virginia.
Alexandria, Virginia.
oh, wonderful. We're a geographically diverse audience tonight. How about that?
And when my grandchildren come, they work the market. And it's a highlight for them.
Oh, that's
which I
wonderful.
And it's funny, parents and their kids will come to buy juice, and I'll tell them what it is. And then I'll say, if you bought 2, how much is it? And we do this little math thing. And I love it when I say, how old are you? And, you know, when you get to be 8 or 10, if you want to work at the market, and their eyes just light up. Now, they may not come back, but for a minute, the idea of being engaged in this, or learning your math has a reason, it's another benefit to me. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Deb, I can't thank you enough for taking time to speak with us tonight.
pleasure.
And I think on behalf of everyone who's here, we'll offer a very warm, although silent Zoom round of applause for everything that you shared. And there we go. We got a little round of applause there. Feel free to unmute and actually clap. We're a small enough group. We're all looking forward to the opening of the farmers market.
Well, I hope you all tell your neighbors and your friends about the market, because there are people who would enjoy it if they knew about it. And my social media skills are very slight. And if you're not on Facebook, you don't see it. And so if all of you tell 3 people, then you're helping the market.
We will. And we'll be sharing a recording of your conversation here tonight. So when you all get that recording, share it with all of your friends so they can learn the story behind the market too. Another way of raising awareness.
Deb, you're priceless.
Cute. Thank you. And I have to say that I am exceedingly grateful to this town for letting me do what I do. Not everybody gets a chance to act out their dreams and their ideas and their programs. And I will tell you, I have a couple more ideas coming down the pike when I will need more volunteers.
All right. So keep a lookout, right? Thank you so much, Deb. We really appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Thanks
everybody.
to all of you
Thanks,
for
Deb.
being here. Much appreciated.